So we're starting to get even more details / rumors about the Pittsburgh Penguins general manager search. That's coming up to start the show right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes, follow the show's Twitter at _ Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen today. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So let's jump right in. We got some more details / rumors about the Penguins general manager search. There has not been many rumors / leaks to come out, but we did see a report from Frank Seravalli of Daily Faceoff, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. We're going to jump right into it here. It's posted on Daily Faceoff. I will read what he says. He says, I am told that the Penguins will go with the same exact structure that they had previously. That means a president of hockey operations and a general manager. So they're hiring for not one, but two positions, according to Frank. And he said, I believe the Penguins, who have been very quiet, they are nearing the end of their first round of interviews. I'm going to throw a list of names that have been in the mix. Some of these candidates are for GM, other are for president of hockey ops, so they're speaking to quite a long list of people. These include Mark Bergevin, Jason Botterill, John Chayka, Matthew Darche, and Ryan Martin. He's the assistant general manager of the New York Rangers. He says, those are some of the people I have heard are in the mix. That is not a full list by any means, but it gives some insight into what they're thinking and some of the names that have popped up. Okay. Based off that report, some people may be worried because some of the names on there are general managers or some people who have been general managers before that have not done a great job, like Bergevin. I thought his tenure in Montreal was, if you want to argue, so-so at best, but it turned really bad towards the end of it. He really doesn't fit the innovative, analytically inclined approach that Fenway Sports Group is looking for. I personally believe that the only reason he reportedly got an interview, and I am glad that Seravalli reported this because I had also heard from someone about a week ago that he had been interviewed by Mario, which leads me to my point here, was that he is a close friend of Mario. Mario is, I think, assisting a little bit in the GM search. It's not fully, it's mainly Dave Beeson and Kevin Ackland's search, but I think he's helping out a little bit where he can just because, he was the one that hired Brian Burke and Ron Hextall in the first place. But outside of him being a friend of Mario's version, that is, I don't really think there's much to like about him. And again, I'm not going to read too much into it. He doesn't really fit the mold that Fenway Sports Group is looking for. And we all saw what happened when you hired the typical friend of Mario hockey man for the last couple of years. Brian Burke. He assisted with the search. He was a friend of Mario. Mario asked him to come aboard for the president of hockey ops. He came aboard. Ron Hextall, friend of Mario, hockey man. He came aboard as well. David Morehouse had the final say on it, but he had Mario's blessing. They came aboard. You all saw what happened. It was a disastrous tenure. I would like to think this time that the new ownership group, which is mainly in charge of this search, would see that the last regime failed with with the two hockey men in their front office, and they're not going to be like, oh, let's do that again, except let's bring in someone like Bergevin. It would just kind of be a lame hire. They can do so much better than that. So I'm not really too worried about it. Also, these people that Seravalli named, I think they're out there for a reason. I don't think anyone in the ownership group is leaking this stuff. I think this is coming from agents of these people, especially Bergevin, basically just telling the insiders, hey, my client's been around this search. He's been interviewed, put him out there. I really think that's what it is. I understand that most of these candidates are not, that's at the cream of the crop. I'll say that John Chayka, I think, was kind of fraudulent in Arizona. I do think he could be better in a different situation, with more like a structure around him and a better organization. But I don't really like the work that he did in Arizona. Jason Botterill, I know he has the history here. He was Jim Rutherford's associate GM. He was here before that as well. But when he took the Buffalo job and was the Sabres general manager, outside of the Tage Thompson acquisition and the Ryan O'Reilly trade, I don't really like the work that he did. I also didn't like how Buffalo really filled out their analytics department after he left. Maybe it was because, the Pagulas were a little more hands-on with Botterill being there. He could be better in a different situation with more of a structure around him. And I know he's done a better job in Seattle, but still, I didn't really like the job that he did in Buffalo. Matthew Darsh, he is the one that at least intrigues me a bit. He's the director of hockey ops in Tampa Bay. He's worked under Julian Brisbois, under Steve Yzerman. He's done a pretty solid job there. My only question is, how much of a role did he play in the ridiculous Tanner Jeannot trade, which they gave up a ridiculous amount of first-round picks? Don't know what the heck that trade was about. Julian Brisbois took a rare L with that one. And then Ryan Martin, I don't know too much about him, though I texted a couple Rangers fans today, got some feedback on him. They basically just told me, Hunter, be very wary of anyone from the team's front office just because of their record with talent evaluation. I was like, okay, I'll take that under advisement, just because the Rangers at times have been a little when it comes to that. So again, for the most part, these names, it's five. There's only 5 that he listed. People. Pierre LeBrun said last week they're doing first round interviews. They're going to talk to at least 10 to 12 candidates. Honestly, I would argue they're probably going to talk to 15, maybe 20. This is what casting a wide net means. You're going to talk to people of numerous different hockey backgrounds, whether it's an old head like Mark Bergevin, whether it's someone like John Chaika, who I don't think did a good job in Arizona, but he's a computer guy, a numbers guy, if you want to refer to him as that. Jason Botterill, hockey man as well. Matthew Darsh, a little more innovative. There's no been rumors about Eric Tulsky or Kyle Dubas, but these type of names that you see, they come from different backgrounds. And I am sure there are plenty other people who they are discussing. And again, this is only the first round of interviews. This is what casting a wide net is. Once this list gets cut down to maybe like the final 4 to 5 candidates, then if some of these old hockey men are still on there, you can freak out a little bit. But you also have to remember they are hiring for 2 positions, according to Frank. I don't know if one of them will be for a hockey man, one of them will be for a younger guy, or they could be 2 younger guys, 2 older guys. I don't know. But no one needs to freak out about it just yet. This is still in the very early stages. I've also been told by a couple of people that no one really knows who the full list is, like who is on that full list. So take that for what you will, okay? There's really no, if you're listening to this podcast, there's really no reason to panic at all. I know we're about almost a month into the search here. I personally think, Yins, we are not close to finding out who this next general manager is. I think it's going to be done in the next few weeks, maybe by mid-June, but I don't think they're close at all. I think they're really paying attention to seeing what happens tonight, Wednesday night, when you're listening to this, with the Maple Leafs. If they lose and get swept, I do think there's going to be major changes. I would assume they would call the Maple Leafs and Kyle Dubas within 5 minutes to get permission to interview him, because remember, he's still under contract for at least another month till the end of the season. So they would have to get permission there. I said last week, I got that a little bit wrong. They can't just call Kyle. They would have to call the Leafs. But I think they would probably also wait to see if the Leafs would just fire him. And then they can be like, we'll call him at that point because his contract is about to be up. But that is the latest on the GM search. Again, I wouldn't sweat anything. The Penguins are keeping this a secret. There's not much has gotten out. I truly do not think anyone within this ownership group or the organization is putting this stuff out there. I truly think Frank got his info from agents of some of these people who are just like, hey, yeah, my client's a little bit involved in this search. He got an early interview. That's what I think it is. I personally don't think Bergevin will be hired. Jason Botterill maybe could see it I still think it's unlikely. I think the most likely of this crop, if one advances to the second round and then gets hired, is Matthew Darsh. That's how I'm reading into it, at least. So everything's good. I'm glad that they're hiring a GM and a president of hockey ops. I just hope that the president of hockey ops has an actual role. It is not just like a buffer between, Kevin Acklin and Dave Beeson and ownership, like Brian Burke was for the last regime. I really hope that this person is actually involved in the hockey decisions, because I truly don't think Brian Burke was involved with that at all. I think it was just Hextall doing his thing. So that's all I have to say when it comes to updates on the GM search. Let me know what you all think. Are you all any nervous about the updates that I just provided, or are you just, waiting to see where this goes and all that? But that wraps up this first segment. Coming up in the second segment, Mike Sullivan to the New York Rangers. I'm going to tell you why it is completely false, and that Penguins fans, you all have nothing to worry about when it comes to that. That's coming up after this commercial break. But before we jump into that, Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. We streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data US. Even better, they're the only job site where you pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. It's an unbelievable, powerful hiring platform, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest from 2019. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. One more time, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. All right, I'm back in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, @LNShow Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all platforms. So let's just get into this Mike Sullivan garbage is the best I can describe this. I have never seen a fan base want a head coach that is employed by another team so badly. I mean, I know Mike Sullivan's a great coach. You don't have to tell me that. You don't have to tell a lot of people in the fan base that, a lot of other people that cover the team that. But wow, I've never seen a rival fan base want a coach like this bad. And we've heard a lot about it over the last 24 to 48 hours. Larry Brooks of the New York Post put out a ridiculous tweet that made me almost gouge my eyeballs out. He tweets, "I will pass along this scenario that was just presented to me. Dubas leaves Toronto to become the Penguins GM, brings Sheldon Keefe with him to be the head coach. The Penguins fire Mike Sullivan, who in turn becomes free, and he becomes the Rangers head coach." Larry, I can promise you, as Steven Tyler says in Aerosmith, dream on. That's what I say to that. Dream on. I know everyone has all the dreams out there. You go to bed at night, you dream about, scoring the game-winning goal in a Game 7 for a team that you root for. You dream that you're going to, date this person who you're ridiculously attracted to. But this, good luck. The Penguins are not going to fire or even trade Mike Sullivan to the New York Rangers. That is not happening. Let's go over those reasons. I don't know why I even have to do this, but I'm going to do this because I am tired of reading at it. Number one, he is assisting in the GM search. Does he have the final say of who the Penguins are going to hire? No, but he is helping out Dave Beeson and Kevin Acklin when he can. That's number one. Number two, they just signed him to a contract extension, Fenway Sports Group. Last year, he has, at least 4 years left on that deal, the new deal? He's not going anywhere. Number three, they committed to Sullivan, especially after this season, when they sided with him over Hextall. And that was confirmed by Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast today, when he said they sided with Sullivan over player personnel issues and other stuff. So there's obviously, based off that, there's a difference of opinion when it comes to the head coach and the person, obviously Ron Hextall, who was assembling the roster together. And again, he's arguably, I don't think it's arguably, I think he is the best coach in franchise history. He becomes available, he is hired in 10 minutes. One more thing. Sheldon Keefe coming in for Mike Sullivan is a downgrade. I am sorry. If you disagree with that, that is your opinion. But Sullivan has the championship pedigree. He's led teams to championships. Sheldon Keefe, fine coach, but I don't think he moves the needle all that much. I do think if the Maple Leafs lose tonight, you could see a full house cleaning with both Keefe and Dubas out of there. But I don't think I don't think Keefe is an upgrade over Sullivan. So Rangers fans will continue to have copium all they want when it comes to Sullivan. It is not going to happen. Mike Sullivan will be the Pittsburgh Penguins head coach for at least this season. Could it be on a shorter leash? Yes. Could very much see that. If the team stumbles out of the game and they stink, maybe he gets canned and someone gets promoted to the interim basis before they have to hire someone full time. But he is going to be this team's head coach for at least the foreseeable future. It's not going to happen. Again, Larry Brooks and Rangers fans, if you ever tune into this podcast, dream on. He is not leaving this organization, and he's especially not going to be the head coach of the New York Rangers. I don't want that on my conscience, and I don't think any of you all want that on your consciences either. Do you want to see Mike Sullivan coaching a division rival of yours and then playing that team 4 to 5 times a year? No, you don't. So again, that's whatever to me. It's ridiculous that I even have to discuss it. Rangers, that people with the New York media are just being really crazy, to say the least. So that's really all I want to say about that. If there is a change to the coaching staff, it's probably going to be to the assistants whenever the new front office comes in. That's what I'm going to say about that. So that wraps up this second segment of today's episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Coming up to end the show, we're going to get into the playoff games from last night, a look at what's going to happen to potentially tonight with the Maple Leafs. They are on the brink of elimination, what that could mean for Fenway Sports Group, all of that, plus so much more coming up in this next segment. But before we jump into that, we do have to discuss game time. There have been plenty of times where I've been stressed out trying to buy tickets, whether it's the Steel Panther concert back in March, whether it's Guns N' Roses about a year and a half ago. So I understand buying tickets can be stressful at times, but they shouldn't be stressful 100% of the time. That's where Game Time comes in. It's the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you will have. It is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You get exclusive deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can download the Game Time app right now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, @LSO Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen/watch of the day. We're free and available on all platforms. Remember, this is your team every day. And of course, my German Shepherd downstairs had to let out a nice little bark. She must have saw some sort of dog walk by. But let's end with some playoff talk. Is it just me? Or is this second round garbage? Serious question. These games have been awful. And I mean awful. They're blowouts every night. Last night, the Hurricanes-Devils game, it looks like it's going to be a good game. 1-0 New Jersey, 1-1, 2-1, and then the Hurricanes just blitz for 3 more goals in the second period. It's actually no, not 3 more goals, 4 more goals, and it's just 6-1 going into the third. And I'm like, really? For real? And then after that, the nightcap game, Dallas jumps out to a 5-1 lead going into the third. I'm just gonna read. I keep reading Dark Force Rising if that's how it's gonna be. These games have been brutal. We really got spoiled in the first round. Every game in that Carolina New Jersey series has been a blowout. Same thing with Seattle and Dallas. The Vegas Edmonton series they've traded blowouts with each other. Those games haven't been close. The only series that's been close yet the Maple Leafs are down 3-0 is that series, Toronto to Florida. All those games have been super close. 1-goal games. Last one went to overtime. The Panthers are up 3-0. You wouldn't know it. But man, have these games just been bad. I mean, it's definitely crazy that we're likely going to have a Carolina-Florida Eastern Conference final. If you had that on your bingo card, raise your hand, please. I would like to see it. But that's the big one for tonight. Toronto, Florida. Toronto trying to stave off elimination, trying to not get swept. If they do get swept tonight, I can only imagine Kyle Dubas will get a call, or the Maple Leafs, I should say, will get a call from the Fenway Sports Group within 5 or 10 minutes. I definitely think they are waiting to try to interview him. I listened to this on 32 Thoughts from Elliot Friedman. He said, we're talking about the Penguins here in the belief that they're willing to wait a little bit to get the right guy. He said, someone said to me on Tuesday that they're not willing to wait that long, but they are still willing to wait at least a little bit, which again, I definitely think they have their eyes on Dubas. I don't know that for sure, but I feel like they're waiting to try to get their hands on him so that they can interview him, as maybe they see him as the top fit for the job. I don't know that for a fact, but I think if they lose tonight and in really bad fashion, the Leafs they're going to be really quick with their changes. I don't think they're going to take long with it. The draft is in 7 weeks now. They're going to want to do it really quickly. Heck, the Penguins, remember, they lost Thursday. And then they fired Hextall, Birkin Pryor the next day, not even 24 hours later. I don't know if it'll be that quick with the Leafs. It could be, but I assume if they lose tonight, it's probably going to be less than a week, maybe less than half a week before they make their serious changes. But that's going to be a big one to watch tonight. Vegas, Edmonton, hopefully there's not another blowout in that one. Vegas is up 2-1. I did say with Vegas, I think people were underestimating the Knights a little bit. They have the firepower to match the Oilers. And the big thing in that series is when the Oilers are not in the power play, they are very vulnerable. I don't think they're that good of a 5-on-5 team. If you can keep the game to even strength, you can beat them. You just can't be stupid and take dumb penalties against them because they have a historic power play. They have 2 of the best players on the planet. They will make you pay every single time. So if the Knights can stay out of the box, and I like their chances of going up 3-1. I don't like how Stuart Skinner has played in this series for the Oilers. I want to see how he plays in this one. Again, already discussed Toronto, Florida. A lot of pressure on the Toronto Stars tonight. I always think of, that Michael Irvin, video. What are you prepared to do about it? And we're going to find out what the Leafs are prepared to do about it tonight. Carolina up 3-1 in New Jersey. I just think the Devils look out of their depth in this series. They probably are going to have to go back to Schmidt in Raleigh. I don't really know why they went back to Vanacek. It just kind of seemed like a weird move. Continue to be really impressed with the Hurricanes on how they're up 3-1 right now. They've won 6 of 8. Oh, well, not 6 of 8. Excuse me. They've won 7. They've won 7 playoff games so far. Geez. 7 of 10, I should say. And they're looking really good doing it. And they opened up a can of open up a can of whoop ass on the Devils in that game. And then the Stars 2-2 going back to Dallas. That's been a fun one. I still like the Stars to win it. But still, definitely been a little bit of a bad round here. The games have just not been close. We hit the jackpot in the first round. hoping the conference finals are going to be a bit better than this, because this has been awful to watch. I've been turning off the games after second periods, blowout central. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Really appreciate all of you listening / watching. We'll continue our season reviews for our Thursday episode. We'll probably do Ryan Poehling, and then I'm hoping to secure a guest or two for the end of the week on Friday and then into next week as we continue into the offseason. So again, thank you all so much for listening. I very much appreciate it, and I'll be back with another episode for you all on Thursday. Talk to you then.